Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Charine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yes, so we start with the 20th chapter, first verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes, chapter 20. Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Prithu. Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha. Bhagavan api Vaikuntha. Sakam ma Maghavata Vibhu. Yajnair Yajnapatis Tushto. Yajna Bhuktam Abhashata. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, being very much satisfied by the performance of 99 horse sacrifices, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, appeared on the scene. Accompanying him was King Indra. Lord Vishnu then began to speak. Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Eshate Karshid Bhangam. Hayamedha Shatasya. Kshama Atmanam. Amushya Kshantum Arhasi. Yeah, would someone like to read?
I read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Translation. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, My dear King Prithu, Indra, the King of Heaven, has disturbed your execution of 100 sacrifices. Now he has come with me to be forgiven by you. Therefore, excuse him. Purport. In this verse, the word Atmanam is very significant. It is a custom among yogis and jnanis to address one another, or even an ordinary man, as oneself. For a transcendentalist, never accepts a living being to be the body. Since the individual self is part and parcel of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the self and thus super self are qualitatively non-different. As the next verse will explain, the body is only a superficial covering, and consequently an advanced transcendentalist will not make a distinction between oneself and another.
Hare Krishna. So as we see, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mame vansh jivaloke jiva bhut sanatana. So every living entity is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We have seen in the second canto also, for example, that the living entity is a qualitative portion of the Supreme Lord. He expands from the Supreme Lord, and he is covered by material energy. And as a result of that, he becomes enamored by Maya. So the word Atmanam, we have seen this in the first canto, Atmanam Atmanishware. The living entity sees himself as the master, immediately ceases from all materialistic activities. So living entity seeing oneself as the master, or Atmanam, seeing oneself. So when we see the Supreme Lord, we see our own reflection also there. Now the Mayavadis think that the Supreme Lord is the same as the living entity, or that the Supreme is a collective whole of all living entities. But actually, this is not the case. The living entity is qualitatively the same as Supreme. Therefore, the knowledgeable person sees the living entity, all living entities equanimously. These are Pandita Samadarshina. So Pandita Samadarshina, he sees everyone with an equal vision. A snake, a dog eater, elephant, everyone he sees with the same vision. So there is equanimity, not equality. I mean, a snake is not on the same platform as the spiritual master, but they are on an equivalent platform, meaning that both are expansions of the Lord, both are Jivatmas. But the spiritual master is a delivered soul who is acting qualitatively the same as the Supreme Lord, whereas the snake is covered over by the mode of ignorance and passion. Therefore, his bodily covering means that we should respect his position separately and we should not approach him. So therefore, the Lord here is now saying, Shama Payata Atmanam. Atmanam. Therefore you please forgive him. So King of Heaven, now this is some one more significance here. The King of Heaven has disturbed this particular performance, considering it to be a mundane exercise. Whereas Prithu is Shaktyavesh, he has appeared specifically under the instruction of the Supreme Lord to execute his mission. Therefore, the vision of Prithu Maharaj is different from the vision of Indra, and his vision is certainly the higher vision. Therefore, the Lord is explaining that he should be magnanimous and now forgive Indra. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Last line can also be similar to like Pandita Samdarshina. Will not make a distinction between oneself and another.
Yes, everyone is a living soul. So Maharaj Prithu is Shaktyavesh, whereas Indra is just, is a demigod who's feeling threatened by the exercise of Maharaj Prithu. However, the Lord is exhorting now Prithu Maharaj to understand his real, his constitutional position and forgive. Considering that, see, the objective was that 100 sacrifices will be performed and the Lord would be pleased. But the Lord is already pleased with 99 sacrifices and he has appeared there. So therefore, there is no need for 100th exercise, 100th Ashwamedha. His purpose is already achieved. So once he has achieved the Supreme Lord, where is the need for any Ashwamedha? Or, Ashwamedha is just meant to get oneself to heavenly planet, but it is not needed. Therefore, the Lord is exhorting him to think from a spiritual perspective.
Even for us, Prabhuji, if the purpose is not yet achieved, still Krishna is looking at the efforts, right? So in that sense too, we still need to learn the forgiveness and let go. Whether the purpose is achieved, well, in this case, the purpose was achieved. Well, in our case, it's not, but still we need to learn those. So eventually down the road, our purpose can be achieved.
Yeah, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarori Vishnuna. Amanina Manatina Kirtaniya Sadahari. Because the material world is just an interaction of the living entity and the material nature. As we have seen, in the Bhakti also we'll see. Some devotee was asking me this question today only. Yeah, I think one of the devotees was asking me this question: what is the Adhibhut principle and Adhideva principle? Adhidevat principle. So the Adhibhut principle is material nature, the planets, the sky, the water, earth, fire, water, air, earth, the mountains. This is Adhibhut. But when the Supreme Lord energizes them with his own power, then it becomes the Adhidevat principle. So the sun and the moon, they are Adhibhut. What is sun? This is fire, and moon is just water. So Adhibhut principle. But when the Lord empowers them and they become the eyes of the Supreme Lord, then that becomes the Adhideva principle. So a sober-minded Pandita or knowledgeable person sees that perspective. So the perspective is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Nice.
Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this let go, Mataji said, this is the thing we have to learn, because ultimately at the time of death, we have to let go everything. But, like there are two ways to understand this, like let go by dan, dharma, means it is quite superficial, but the let go philosophy should be understood by scriptures, means Otherwise, whatever we will practice, we cannot implement it.
Absolutely, Prabhu. See, bhakti is all practical actually, Prabhu. Like even the study of scriptures. For example, Bhagavatam is full of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita is very dense knowledge. But what we have to understand is how that applies in our life. For example, Jayanand Prabhu was not a great scholar. Jayanand Prabhu was not giving some commentaries on scriptures or creating some Vaishnava Siddhant. But Jayanand Prabhu was considered a pure devotee by Srila Prabhupada. Whatever little bit he heard, he immediately applied in his life. Surrender to spiritual master, following the instructions of the Gita, surrendering one's life to Krishna. He just did that. So, I mean, only a fool would say that he was less qualified than the others who studied all the scriptures and eventually ran away with some random women. So, you see, Prabhu. So, study of Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita is not an academic exercise. We are not here to, clear some entrance examinations or, clear some IAS civil services papers by memorizing all the verses or, knowing so much. But what is the takeaway? How much do we apply in our life? That is the most important part of studies. What do we understand? I'll just give you one example here. In 1968, Srila Prabhupada was writing a drama on the life of Haridas Thakur. So this took place over a number of days. So Srila Prabhupada was dictating. He was dictating verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was translating, and he wanted Hayagriva Prabhu to understand it properly. I think it was Hayagriva Prabhu, yeah, not Hridayanand Goswami. It was Hayagriva Prabhu. He was sitting with him. So it went on for a number of days, and Prabhupada was narrating this incident, of the life of Haridas Thakur. And finally, they reached the time when Srila Haridas Thakur is about to leave his body. So that time, Srila Prabhupada, so he's explaining in one, this is a very striking incident. It's mentioned in Leelamrit also. So Srila Prabhupada was narrating this incident, and then he says, and thus Haridas Thakur leaves this mortal world. So when he says this, so Prabhupada is actually experiencing it. And what does Hayagriva Prabhu say there? He says, so he finally meets his end here. So when he said like that, Prabhupada was very deeply hurt. Srila Prabhupada was not deeply hurt at this kind of a disrespectful, flippant statement, but Srila Prabhupada was hurt at the immaturity of his disciples, that they had no understanding of the spiritual significance of these events. So one may go on reading and reading and reading, but if it is not applied in one's life, if it doesn't become a part of one's bhava, then all this academic exercise will be a waste of time. So therefore, when we are studying the Bhagavatam, we have to apply it in our life. We read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have to apply it in our life. We have to inculcate that mood. Not in a Sahajya manner, but we have to inculcate that in our day-to-day life. That is perfection of spiritual life. That is how so you may read only one book or two books, but if it's applied in your life 100%, you have already attained perfection.
Prabhuji, what is then the purpose? Even if I read one shloka, and if somebody is reading one shloka, and if he can understand the essence, like I heard people can discuss one month on one shloka. He read one shloka, understand the purpose, and now it is not required to read any scripture. Means he read, understand, and implemented. And
you need not even read one shloka. The illiterate Brahmin in South India, Adikeshwar temple, who was trying to read Bhagavad Gita, he was illiterate. He had no understanding of the written word. But he was just trying to obey the order of his spiritual master. His life was already perfected. He could not understand anything. The other Brahmins were laughing at him. But Mahaprabhu considered that perfection of his devotion, because he could see Krishna and Arjun.
Yeah. So, but our spiritual master means, like if I say Prabhupada instruction is to read, do Harinam and preach. So we have to obey him.
Absolutely. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Kori Ho Aikya Arana Kari Ho Mane Asha. So we sing every day. Actually, the thing is, we sing so many songs, but you never pay attention to them. So you see, we have to be serious in bhakti. The problem is that most of the people who come to bhakti are not very serious about it. Bhakti becomes a side hobby, so it becomes difficult to attain it. So yes, we have to implement in our life whatever we are reading. For example, this story we are reading is a nice story, but how do we apply it in our lives? That is what we should think. Then everything will start making sense. Yes, so shall we continue? Text 3.
जी
Sudhiya sadhavo loke
सुधीय साधवो लोके
Okay.
naradeva narottama
Narudeva Narottama
नरोत्तमा
navidruhyanti bhutebhyo
Nabhidruhyanti Bhutebhyo
भूतेभ्यो
yarhi natma kalevaram.
Yarhi Natma Kalevaram.
कलेवरम.
Yes, someone like to read?
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna. Translation. O King, one who is advanced in intelligence and eager to perform welfare activities for others is considered best amongst human beings. An advanced human being is never malicious to others. Those with advanced intelligence are always conscious that this material body is different from the soul. Purport. In daily life, we find that a madman commits murder. He is excused even by a high court judge. The idea is that a living entity is always pure because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he falls into the clutches of material energy, he becomes a victim of the three modes of material nature. Indeed, whatever he does under the influence of material nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.14, na kartratvam na karmani lokasya shrajati prabhu na karma phala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of the body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Actually, the living entity or the soul does not do anything. Everything is under the influence of the modes of material nature. When a man is diseased, the symptom of the disease becomes a source of all kinds of pain. Those who are advanced in transcendental consciousness or Krishna consciousness are neither envious, neither of the soul nor of the activities of the soul under the influence of the material nature. Advanced transcendentalists are called Shuddhiya. Shuddhi means intelligence. Suddhiya. Suddhi means intelligence. Suddhi means highly advanced, and Suddhi means devotee. One who is both devoted and highly advanced in intelligence does not take action against the soul or the body. If there is any discrepancy, he forgives. It is said that forgiveness is the quality of those who are advancing in spiritual knowledge. Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. So, what is written here? Na kritatvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala samyogam sabhavastu pravartate. So, you see, nor does he induce, the embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. You see, sometimes, like for those of you who might have lived in coastal areas, you see, when there are waves in the ocean, the boats are bobbing up and down. There's no one. And the boat certainly is not sentient. It is the waves of the ocean by which the boats are going up and down. Or sometimes in the river, we see some sticks and leaves are just floating in the water. They almost appear to be alive, but actually they're just floating around. So in the fifth chapter also, in the third chapter also, there's a very interesting verse. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. So prakrite kriyamanani, it's the material nature which is acting, which is always active. Gunai karmani sarvasha, the three modes of nature are creating all the activities. But what is the position of a materialist? Ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. That a living entity in illusion thinks that he is the doer. So he starts thinking that he is the actor, he is the doer. And therefore he becomes entangled in those activities. You know, Krishna is saying in the second chapter, Krishna has already said that, do not consider yourself to be the result of the result. Do not consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities. Na karma phal hetu, ma karma phal hetu. Do not consider yourself to be the producer of the results. At the same time, mate sangos karmani, do not be attached to not working. So a pure devotee of the Lord is always acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord. It's not Prakriti is not acting, but he is acting on behalf of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such a person cannot commit any violence. What is violence? What is the definition of violence actually? Violence, Srila Prabhupada defines as that activity which stops somebody's spiritual progress. When we say the words which are harmful to someone or our actions are harmful to somebody's bodily existence, then such an activity is violent activity because we stop his progress in remembrance of the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, when a person is in pure spiritual consciousness, he can do no such things which will impede other spiritual progress. So forgiveness, what is forgiveness really? We think that so and so is the doer, so he has created trouble for me. But actually in Prakriti Kriyamanani, material nature is acting. Such and such living entity is acting under the influence of material nature, and therefore he is doing those actions which are causing harm to us, which are impeding our progress. Therefore, we should understand. So this forgiveness is not some kind of a sentimental forgiveness. Just okay, because I have to be forgiving, therefore I will forgive. That is also ahankara. This forgiveness has to come from a deep spiritual understanding that the living entity is only acting under the influence of material nature. He is not acting out of his own independent will. He is at the most a person who can desire. He is a living entity, he can desire, but action is being committed by the influence of the material mode of nature. He thinks he is a man or a woman or a doctor or this and that, and therefore he is acting out of pride or ignorance. But in reality, it is the modes of nature which are impelling him to act in such a way. Therefore, just like one does not get angry at the waves of the ocean, one does not get angry at the waves of material nature. And therefore, one is naturally forgiving of other living entities. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Forgiving, how to take in, okay, spiritual world understood, but suppose in an office setup, how we will understand forgiveness? Somebody does mistake, okay, I forgive him. But means it's like how I'll set this in, like what we are reading.
So you see, Prabhu, this has to be understood in a different manner. We should not hold any grudges. Like once Srila Prabhupada in 1966, Srila Prabhupada was in New York. 1965, yeah, he was in New York. At that time, he was doing his translation, and there was a boy guarding his room. So one very important personality came to meet him. It was some big lawyer or something. He came to meet Prabhupada. And this boy, he just said, please wait here, Swamiji is busy. And he never told Prabhupada. And after half an hour, the man just got up and left. And then Prabhupada came down after some time, and he asked, did someone come to meet? And the boy said, yes, so-and-so came to meet you. And I told him to wait because you're busy. So Prabhupada was like shaking with anger. He said, you fool, he was such an important man. You could have told me. And Prabhupada was very angry. He called him fool 3-4 times. So, and other times also, once it was in Amsterdam, when the temple was about to be opened, the devotees were committing one mistake after the other. For example, Prabhupada wanted to do the yajna for the deities, and he asked for fruits, and they sent him a bowl of fruit salad. And Prabhupada was very angry. Another time, and Prabhupada was like literally shaking with anger, and he was screaming at the devotees. Another time, the Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and somebody put salt in Charnamrit. And when Prabhupada took it, he asked, who did this? And one girl was giggling. So Prabhupada really got angry. He said, like, why don't you train these young devotees? Who let this foolish girl put salt in Charnamrit? So you see, Prabhu, that anger is corrective. Prabhupada did not hold grudges against his disciples that they are such fools. Like once, Prabhupada was in New York, was in San Francisco, and one devotee ate some oranges and threw the peels in the kitchen garbage pan. And Prabhupada got angry. He said, you haven't given up your militia sanskar. You're still dirty. What you have eaten should not come inside the kitchen. So in this way, Prabhupada was chastising his disciples, or Prabhupada was very angry with Mr. Nair for Juhu temple. But at the same time, Prabhupada did not hold any grudges against anyone. So you see, Prabhu, it's not an impersonalistic philosophy. Getting angry is not wrong, but one should not hold that anger. So at your workplace, it's your duty to correct. If there is some clerk or some junior officer who's making mistakes, which could have, potentially dangerous consequences, you have to chastise them. Or if someone is neglecting their work, you have to chastise them. Nothing wrong with that. But you should not hold them responsible and, forever, berate them for it. Because this is material world, full of imperfections. So we have to understand. So the philosophy of bhakti has to be applied in a very practical and circumstantial manner. If you do not chastise, who will chastise them?
Yeah, then they will make more mistakes.
Yes, and they'll think, oh, this person is weak. Prabhu, like, in Varnashram also, Shudras are meant to be chastised. If Shudra is not chastised, he'll not feel happy. Like, in the army also, Jawans must be cursed by their officers or they don't feel happy.
Motivated.
That motivates them, especially they use this word sala so many times.
Thank you.
Hare
Krishna, Prabhuji, Prabhuji, you said that we act helplessly under the modes of material nature. But then, Prabhuji, we also have a free will to choose now how to act.
Yes. So
then
every
how do you
moment there's a choice
understand?
between Krishna and material nature.
So should we understand it this way? Okay? People who don't have the knowledge of this philosophy and they are actually acting helplessly under the modes of material nature. And people who have knowledge, they can actually use their free will wisely and choose not to.
Yes, so you see, Maya Mugdha Jiva Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan, Jivera Kripaye Kaila Krishna Ved Puran. So for showing his mercy, he has created Ved Puran so that one can understand the actual position. For example, you have a car. So you know where to put the key, how many turns to give. If you just put the key and you just turn it all the while, the cranking motor will burn out. So they tell you, when you learn driving, the first thing they tell you is hold the key for 1 second. As soon as the car starts, you have to put the key back. Otherwise, the cranking motor will burn out. So even if you have a machine and you are very educated, you are MBBS, MD, but if you don't know how to drive a car, you can't drive it. So if one does not know the Vedas, one does not know how this material body is working. So by knowing the Vedas, one knows how to act and how not to act. Or rather, one learns how to utilize one's own free will.
Exactly.
So free will is free, but not too free. Like, too much of free will is also not a very good.
The free will also has its boundaries. I mean, within the boundaries, you can sort of exhibit and enact your free will, right?
Yes. So you see, because you have free will, others also have their free will. So, you have a car and I say, this is your car. I can also drive it. I also have my free will. I want to drive it. You say, no, you buy it from me and then you drive it. Say, no, I just want to drive it. How can you stop me? So there are legal limits. So in material nature also there are limits.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat.
Hey Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu, boliye.
Prabhuji, just to add, I one comment. There is a say in English. It is self will run riot.
Yeah, just look at a child now, for example. If a child is not disciplined, he'll grow wild. So child is given some freedom. It's not that child is enslaved by the parents, but child is given limited freedom. I mean, child would want to buy the whole toy store. Child would want to eat only candies. But mother will force, okay, no, one candy is enough. You have to eat dal and rice after that. Or you have to go to school, like Prabhupada says, Prabhupada gives this beautiful example. There's a child just wants to play all day, but the parents force him to go to school. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to go. He finds some excuses, but parents send him to school to make him an educated gentleman. So that's how Krishna also gives Vedas and sends the Guru also, so that we can become gentlemen, civilized human beings.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, also I want to say one thing on this, that like we say freedom and free will are free. So that also, like the materialistic conception is like no one should be, we should not be under us, or no one should control us. But so that way they feel that we are free. But the actual meaning of free will, actual meaning of free will is, or actual meaning of self-will is, that one has to bind himself with the principles of the spirituality, principles of regulatory, principles of Shastra, and one has to bind himself with all these things. Then he will have that real free will.
Yes, Prabhu. Free will is to be guided. Like, car has an engine, so the gearbox controls the engine. If there is no gearbox, the engine won't produce any power at all. It will just keep turning everywhere and making a lot of noise. But when it is regulated with the gearbox, it produces nice torque and the car can move nicely. And then the engine can utilize its potential. So nature, there is so much of power. You put a hydroelectric dam and then the power of the water is extracted. So free will can be exercised nicely under the regulations of the Vedas. Then one will enjoy one's free will. When one takes the shelter of Krishna, then one can really enjoy one's free will. There is free will, but there is no freedom. Material nature does not give us any freedom.
Prabhuji, means free will we have, but we are always under three mode of material nature. So there is no freedom.
Yeah, there is no freedom. We think we are free. But, like even if someone wants to drink alcohol, hardcore alcoholic, how much alcohol can he drink? If he drinks like 2 liters, 3 liters, he'll die. Then where is the free will there? It kills him. Okay, finished. Your body is finished. Yeah, it's just an illusion of free will. But when one surrenders to Krishna, then one's free will really comes into play. One realizes one's Swarupa Siddhi, then one is completely free.
Then it will be other out of three modes.
Yes, out of the three modes. Situated in the three modes of spiritual nature. Vishuddha Sattva. There is complete freedom. Imagine spiritual world has Kamdhenu cow who can give you whatever you want. There are Kalpataru Vriksha. You can get whatever you want from the trees. So, I mean, to enjoy that level of freedom, you must be that level of mature also.
Really, spiritual world also have tigers and all everything.
Yes, there are tigers, there are trees, there are cows, there are animals. There's a lot of variety in spiritual world. Actually, if you want to know more about it, it's very nicely described in Srimad Bhagavatam. of Sanatan Goswami.
Okay.
Krishna, like, now just to give you some more excitement, Krishna even plays a game which looks like cricket. So,
Where is this one, Prabhuji? Where is this? Is it in Bhagavatam too?
So Brihad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that actually this specific verse I will mention, why it's not just some kind of speculation. So the word is in Sanskrit is loosely translated as bat in English. So when Krishna is leaving for the pasturing grounds, Nanda Maharaj is following him. He doesn't want to let go of Krishna. None of these Brajvasis ever want to let go of Krishna. So when Krishna leaves for the pasturing grounds in the morning, they all follow him. So Krishna, because he has to go to the forest, he has his pastime with his boys also. So he's leaving. So he tells Nanda Maharaj, he says, "Oh dear father, you need not worry about me. I have my bat. You can please put oil in it so that we can play nicely in the evening. So, and you can, in this way, you can, think about me and engage yourself, and I'll be back soon." So it is mentioned there.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know the rules of this game that they play. Is it like baseball or cricket? I don't know. But there is some game which has a bat and a ball.
Said Prabhuji,
Anything in this
whoever
material world? Yes, bro?
yeah, like whoever means there are different role according to interest. It is decided if somebody want to become like habits like a tree, means spiritually he will get a tree. He will be tree in Golaka. If somebody means according to their interest, they will get the body, and there to everything is live.
Yes. They already have a body, bro. Everyone has a spiritual body already. We are like in a dreaming state. By following the regulative principles strictly and studying the scriptures very nicely, that Swarupa is revealed to us. Like, you go to sleep, and in your dream, you may be a boy, you may be a king, or you may be a soldier or anything. But as soon as you wake up, you are a banker, you are living in this place, you are a husband, you are a son, you remember all of that. Immediately the memory comes back. So as soon as we awaken to spiritual reality, we'll forget all of this. The material world and all the sufferings we have had here will be completely forgotten. We'll see Krishna, and we'll immediately know who we are.
Our Swarupa must be fixed, Prabhuji. Means what our actual, like I may be a cat in spiritual world, but due to my ignorance, I am here. But my Swarupa is already fixed that okay, whenever I'll come back, I'll be my original form of a cat.
Absolutely. But that spiritual cat is not ordinary cat. It is full of consciousness. So spiritual world means Satchitanand, full of consciousness. It's not some fake, it's not imagination.
So Prabhuji, one thing that so when we say we still have to do our karma, we can't be like a superficial kind of person. Ki theek hai, kshama everywhere. So that what we are trying to actually say is you find a solution, but the solution has to be related with the Shastra. So sometimes the solution could be mere simply keeping quiet. And would that be the right? Sometime, depending on the situation, keeping quiet could be, and pardon me, my understanding is not going in the right direction. Keeping quiet could be that you are helping yourself because you want your mind to be calm so you can focus on bhakti. And keeping quiet on the other side, B could be because you know that the other person, say, is getting into the lower mode. For example, Indra is getting to the lower mode of nature. If Maharaj Prithu would continue, he would go further down. So in order to stop that further downgrade, you just take a pause.
Yes. So now this is the subtlety of Bhagavatam here. Prithu Maharaj was not incorrect. Prithu Maharaj was not doing something wrong. Indra had violated the religious principle. He was acting like a thief. And not only that, he was establishing wrong principles also for others to follow. Yadyad acharet shreshtas tattad evatara jana. Whatever the seniors do, the juniors will follow. And Indra being the king of heavens, if he does something so silly like this, people will take that as a stand. So Prithu Maharaj had that consciousness to stop him also. But in that consciousness, so you see, the correctness of this action is that Brahmaji has stopped him.
Yes.
On his own, if Brahmaji were not to come, he should not have stopped.
He
So,
should not have stopped.
If Brahmaji would not have stopped him, because it was judged by Brahmaji that Prithu Maharaj's actions are inducing Indra to become more and more sinful. So therefore he stopped. But Prithu Maharaj's duty was to stop Indra. And it was the duty of his son to kill Indra also. So you see, like someone of our caliber cannot judge the position of Prithu Maharaj, but only Brahmaji can do that. Or as we see, Lord Narayan can do that.
So Prabhuji, now it's even
Because
hard
Prithu
to understand. So, ab agar Prithu Maharaj, I get he was right. So he could have continued. But then he was seeing that it's going in the negative direction. Then he had to stop somewhere, no?
Yes. So that's why he was going to kill Indra. He said, okay, let's kill him off. We'll find some other Indra, but this Indra is like he's become like a demon now. So finish him off. So he prepared to kill Indra. That's the time when Brahmaji appeared. So that was right. There was nothing wrong in his action. But Brahmaji judged that this action should be stopped here. See, Prithu Maharaj he's like Shakavish. Certainly no foolish man like us. So his actions are also carefully judged. But you see, this is the subtlety of karma. It's very difficult to understand what is right and what is wrong. And Prithu Maharaj, and indeed like what Rahul Prabhu also asked the same question, the answer is very simple. It's on the basis of the 3rd chapter of Gita. If it's your job to chastise, you should chastise. But you should not get like in this example also, you should not get carried away. Like for example, if some laborer is making a mistake, it is your job to correct him by using harsh words. So that's how Shudras understand. But you should not start taking a belt and start beating up the Shudra or starve him to death or something. That becomes passion.
Yes.
Only action that much, only that much action which is necessary.
Grudges is the right
like
word you said.
Yes. So we see, for example, this road rage which takes place. Now, someone may have made a mistake, someone has honked by mistake, someone has broken a lane by mistake. So, the police will take action on him. It's not for us to chase that vehicle down and, damage him or do something nasty. It is a violation of dharma.
Good example.
It is like means whatever is necessary means like, but it is wrong if means a civilized person will not try to agitate others so that his sinful reactions will come out. So
One should not
agitate.
So for example, Prithu Maharaj did not go to agitate Indra. When he saw Indra changing his dress, Prithu Maharaj forgave him and came back. But Indra again tried it.
Steal
in different dresses of sannyasis. So then Prithu Maharaj got enraged that this man is incorrigible. Again and again he's trying. I mean, we have forgiven him, we have let him go, but again he keeps trying. So he should be killed. So you see, I mean, if we go back to the whole pastime, we can see how Indra is changing dresses and how so many times Prithu Maharaj has forgiven him. So I mean, this is not so simple to judge Prithu Maharaj here.
Yeah, it seems so. If we see superficially, like Brahmaji is protecting the sinful Indra, and
so Prithu Maharaj's actions are also well conceived. He has thought, what should be done at this stage.
Prithu Maharaj should have taken the advice that it's okay, I should have sacrificed 99 horse, and it should be declared that okay, I'll sacrifice only 99 horse, so Indra will be calm and the purpose will be solved.
Absolutely. That's what he does in the end. He just says, okay, I have attained the Supreme Lord, why I need to bother about Indra?
Conclusion, Prabhuji, means what conclusion we should derive? Means like everyone was present. Prithu Maharaj should have taken okay the approval of all the present members, Vishnu and Brahmaji, that okay, I'll go till 99, and then he should have started. Then everything should be done calmly, peacefully, and there will be no agitation.
Well, Brahmaji and Narayan have appeared now, not before.
Okay.
He was doing the yajnas with their permission. Brahmanas were conducting the yajna according to all the rules and regulations. So it was not a whimsical performance, but it was just being done for the welfare of other living entities.
Okay. Yes.
Very hurry. Yeah. So we take one more verse. Text 4. Purusha yadi muhyanti.
Purusha yadi
muhyanti.
Adrisha deva mayaya.
Twadrisha deva mayaya.
Shama eva param jato.
Shrama eva
param jato.
Dirghaya vriddha sevaya.
Dirghaya vriddha sevaya. Very good.
Yes, please.
Translation and Prabhupada. If a personality like you, who are so much advanced because of executing the instructions of the previous acharyas, is carried away by the influence of my material energy, then all your advancement may be considered simply a waste of time. Purport. In this verse, the word Vriddha Sevaya is very significant. Vriddha means old, Sevaya means by service. Perfect knowledge is acquired from the acharyas or liberated souls. No one can be perfect in knowledge without being trained by the Parampara system. Prithu Maharaj was completely trained in that line. Therefore, he did not deserve to be considered an ordinary man. An ordinary man who has only the conception of bodily existence is always bewildered by the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So, Purusha yadi muhyanti tadrisha deva mayaya. If a personality like you, who is so much advanced, because of executing the instructions of previous acharyas, is carried away by the influence of my material energy, then all your advancement may simply be considered a waste of time. So you see, Prabhu, he has become a senior devotee by executing the instructions of the previous acharyas. So, sometimes we have this misconception, I've been in movement for 20 years, I'm a senior devotee. So, that's not the criterion. One becomes a senior by executing the instructions of the previous acharyas, the spiritual masters. When one executes these instructions in such a manner, then one becomes a Vriddha Sevaya. One becomes mature in devotion. That is to be considered a senior devotee. So he certainly, Prithu Maharaj, has followed all the instructions of previous acharyas. So he is certainly not an ordinary man. Just like we said, Yajyas Acharyas Shreshtas Tattad Evatarat Jana. So whatever a great man does, the others follow that as a standard. So now here, Lord Narayan is explaining that you have performed such great activities. I mean, Maharaj Prithu saved the starving population of the world. He re-established the religious order. He induced the Lord to appear in the material world. And if he now reaches a situation where he is acting out of line with religion, he decides to kill Indra, which itself is so difficult to understand. If he decides, now he will be acting out of passion, and therefore all his actions will be considered lost. He will be considered to have fallen from his position. So therefore the Lord does not want him to be in that position. So the Lord is exhorting him that this Indra is just like a madman that we saw in the first verse, second verse. that a madman is sometimes is excused by the government. A madman is a madman. He may be put in an asylum, but he's not executed. So just like that, a man who is under the influence of Maya, Aham Mameti, one who thinks I and mine, just like Indra here, such a man is also, deserving of being excused, especially because Indra is asking forgiveness from the Lord. So therefore, the Lord is, and this yajna was performed for the pleasure of the Lord. Therefore, it is imperative that Maharaj Prithu does not throw away all his spiritual credits by just engaging in an insignificant act of killing Indra. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhuji. But this act also of killing, or this thought, actually it did not come. Atri Muni was the one who was guiding him to do that. No?
Yeah. So he's acting under the instruction of another living entity, another sage.
Yeah. So it's like it did not come de novo, it did not come internally to him that he should kill, but it was actually guided by somebody superior, a Muni. So that way also his behavior is quite justified. No? And
Yes. See, Prithu Maharaj is not faulted at all. So we are talking like here the matter is very subtle. Like Indra has acted very grossly. He stole the horse and again. So he committed two offenses. First is he stole the horse. Second is he dressed up as a sannyasi. So he kind of denigrated the ashram of sannyas. So he has two offenses. And certainly those offenses are so grave that he deserves to be put to death. But still, he is the king of heavens. He is the king of all the devatas or the demigods. Therefore, he is still in a worshipable position. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag. So he is also acting out of the madness of passion. And now he has come to his senses. So he is begging forgiveness from the Lord. So therefore, he is deserving of being forgiven.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, then is it this way that whoever completes the 100 horse sacrifices is compulsory put into that position of Indra? It must be something like that.
Yes, so he can take that position. Like if you clear the NEET, you can join the AIMS, but that doesn't mean that if you have cleared, you will join AIMS or you will be forced to take it up. So Prithu Maharaj was just doing it for his own pleasure. He was not interested in being Indra. He has attained the Supreme Lord. Just like that, for example, one who performs the Brahmacharya Tapasya for 100 births, he can become Brahma. One who executes Brahmacharya, proper Brahmacharya, not just wearing a dress. By mind, by one's thoughts, by one's words and actions, one who remains a Brahmachari, 100 births, he can become Brahmaji. So like that, one who performs 100 rajas with this Ashwamedha, he can become Indra if he desires.
So in that case, even Brahmaji could have told Indra, he is not interested in your position. He's just doing it to satisfy the Lord.
No, because now the matter is out of their hands. Now Prithu Maharaj is going to kill Indra.
Yes, sir.
Because Maharaj Prithu is consulting all the demigods, but Indra is not interested in consulting anyone. He is taking matters into his own hands.
It is difficult to make him understand.
Yes, I mean, so much pride, I am Indra, king of heavens, surrounded by beautiful apsaras, so much wealth. So there is this madness, pramad, material madness. You seen those boys who are riding with their motorbikes? That is pramad. Yes, Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I keep on cutting. And Prabhuji, this last sentence that says, by the influence of my material energy, then all your advancement may be considered simply a waste of time. This could apply for Indra too. That he got
he's already mad.
under the...
Indra is already mad. I mean, out of madness, he has committed such a horrible sin. He's already in a position of madness. That's why he's begging forgiveness from the Lord. Now, Lord Narayan is speaking to Prithu Maharaj that, Indra is a fool, but you don't be that fool.
I think it's that line that says, "It is not your duty," is clear that it's Krishna who will manage what's going to happen. I mean, how Indra should be handled. Our duty at that very time is.
Yeah, but see, Krishna is the final authority. Now Krishna has decided to forgive this Indra. So therefore, so Maharaj should also forgive him. That's the understanding.
ठीक है जी, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, any other questions or comments? Okay. So we stop here then, and we'll meet again on Tuesday, because I think Monday Kal Chakra Prabhu will be back. So we'll meet again on Tuesday. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.